This is the Ernie Stadbeck Show with your host, Ernie Stadbeck. To get in touch with Ernie, write to Ernie Stadbeck, 378 South Van Buren Avenue, Barberton, Ohio, 44203-4014. By phone at 330-644-7724 or online at erniestad@aol.com. Now, here's Ernie with today's program.
Time at Anthony's on Manchester Road. And for your next event, remember to call Jennifer. Just tell her how many you're going to have, when you'll be here, and she'll do all the rest at Prime at Anthony's on Manchester Road. And our guest today, this pretty lady sitting next to me, is Valerie Street Kitty. Mm-hmm. I got that right? And correct. What is your exact title? And why are you here?
I'm here because you invited me.
That's right.
My exact title is the Honor Flight CAK Executive Director.
And how did you get into this?
It's probably a long story, so I'll try to shorten it a little bit. I'm a teacher, and many years ago, in 1990, my students came up with an idea to raise buttons for Desert Storm, Desert Shield. During that time, we raised about $1,200 in 3 months. And we were going to give it to the other classes, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers, to do projects. When I called the Red Cross, they said the war was over, the 44-day war. So the superintendent and principal at that time gave the money back to us, and we started a Veterans Day program. So since 1991, we've been doing a Veterans Day program at Canton Local. Well, through that, I've networked with veterans organizations over the years, and a couple years ago, they had a veterans convention in Stark County, and many of the vets said, hey, are you going to go? So we went, and as we were going around all the tables, which most of the people we knew, there was one last table, and it was called Honor Flight. So I approached them and started talking because I was interested in their organization, and I have a son who's down at OU in the Air Force ROTC. So I thought this would be a great project for him and his squadron to get involved in. After talking to Al Bailey, who is one of the directors down there at the Honor Flight Network, I became interested. So Annette Davis and myself went down and took our first flight in June of 2007 from Dayton, because I didn't want to endorse anything I knew nothing about. So I went down, absolutely loved it, and I asked if they were going to start one up here. Well, later, another gentleman and his wife, Mr. John Eaton, started the program in 2007 in September, and I joined as a helper because I was the only one that had gone on a flight at that time. And later that year, the Honor Flight Network approached me and asked me if I wanted to be in charge, and that was the one thing I was trying to avoid because I had a lot on my plate. But I decided it was probably the only way the vets were going to go, so I stepped up to the plate, but I got a lot of great team members below, and you know, Annette Davis, there were certain people that had to come on board to help out, and I knew if they did, we could be a success. So that's how we got started.
Well, now, is this a nationwide endeavor?
Yes, it is. It started in Springfield, Ohio in 2005 under Earl Morse, and he was a retired Air Force captain, also a physician's assistant. And he decided, as the patients were coming in and the World War II memorial was dedicated, he continued to ask his patients, well, are you going to go visit? And many of them couldn't do it. They didn't have the physical or financial ability to do it. So he got some Cessnas together and some pilots together, and they flew them into DC to see their memorial. And that's how it got started. And little places like us get started because we go on a flight, we want to start something in our area, and we jump on board. Right now there are 71 active hubs in the United States in 29 different states. it's been a great thing.
And they're all World War II veterans?
All World War II veterans.
It's kind of shrinking now, though, isn't it?
Well, I think you guys are all starting to come around. There's a lot more. We have 560 on our list in the Akron-Canton area. We also take in Youngstown and Tuscarawas, Wayne County. It's part of Medina County. So we cover a broad area, but Akron-Canton Airport is such a great place to fly in and out of. Everybody wants to come to us. But we do have six other hubs here in Ohio.
You had 560 people on your list. And, of course, with World War II veterans, the number is going down. I hope tomorrow it's not 559. Okay, so when Valerie called, and she wanted to know how old I was. And I told her, and I've told her this before, she goes out, "Sir, do you need a wheelchair?" I said, "Not yet." But after this show, I may need one. She may kick me. Because we're going to kind of put her on the spot here. Not really, we just have a lot of fun talking. Okay, now, how many flights is there a flight every month going out from all over the country, or?
Probably every month, probably several times a month from all over the country. Some people fly commercially. We fly charter out of Akron-Canton. Right now we're flying U.S. Air into Reagan, which is great, and hopefully with the economy we continue to do so. Other hubs fly Southwest or other airlines, whatever they can get as far as commercial or charter. That's the way they go. For instance, Cleveland flies commercial.
Now, one correction, not a correction, but an observation for the old timers. Reagan is the old Washington National Airport. So we're not going to a separate place. It's one and the same.
That's correct.
Now, what do you do on this flight? I'm going to go on it, so maybe you can brief me on what do we do? We get to the airport, and what happens?
It's top secret. I can't tell you.
Oh my
just
goodness!
Kidding.
You're going to have the
Since
wheelchair.
you're going to be on the flight.
You're going to have the wheelchair there for me.
Just in case.
Just,
We'll have it labeled,
okay.
Captain Ernie.
Oh boy! Well, great. Use my title. That's wonderful.
When they get to the airport, we have register them and give them their airline tickets. They meet up with their guardians. They go through security, and we get on our plane. The charter will be waiting for us. The staff at the airport is phenomenal. I have to tell you, the Akron-Canton staff is just phenomenal. And once they're on the plane, we get to eat breakfast, and then we fly into Reagan. Do I have to tell you what happens when we get into Reagan?
No, that's good. Yeah.
Okay. I hate to break the surprise, but you have a grand welcome when we get into Reagan. From there, we go to the World War II Memorial, hop back on the bus. We're there a couple hours, eat lunch, and then we hop back on the bus, and we'll go to the Iwo Jima, then the FDR, and the Vietnam, the Korean, and the Lincoln Memorials. And then we head on back to the airport.
At the World War II Memorial, you spend 2 hours there? What do you do in 2 hours?
We have a little ceremony where we present a flag to the Ohio Pillar. The American flag represents all those World War II soldiers who were not able to make were not able to live to see their memorial. So that's represented. We have a little ceremony.
In about 10 or 11 years, you're going to have to use a Piper Cub. Maybe one of us left, last man standing.
Now we have some 93-year-old men and 94-year-old men on this
Really?
flight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate it when you said I was one of the young ones. Boy, oh boy. Been a long time since I heard that. Now, what do? You told us what you do, your itinerary down there. And where do you have lunch?
The Honor Flight Network sets up a tent at the World War II Memorial.
That's very important, lunch, you know.
I know, lunch and restrooms.
They don't yell chow, they yell it's lunch, right?
Well, we could yell chow.
Oh, that'd make us all feel at home.
We could do that. I could pass out that order.
And then while we're standing in line, you can yell out, "Let's get these troops out of the hot sun." I heard that so many times.
That's good. I need those little hints, helpful
Okay,
hints.
very good. Okay, now, let's start out with what was the most poignant thing, I didn't want to use saddest, but the most poignant thing you heard or experienced on this flight?
I would have to say it was my first flight, and I think for anybody who has not been on one of these flights, as you exit out of the plane at the Reagan National Airport, and you're not expecting what you're going to see, and some of the vets that went on that flight were actually veterans that attended my Veterans Day program at school. So I've known them for many, many years. And when I saw them exit out of that plane in the tears, that was the hardest thing for me to take. I realized what that truly meant to them, and that is so hard to explain to anybody. How do you feel? I can't tell you how you feel. You have to go and experience the whole day, and it's really tough to handle. So I tend to be the last one off the plane now when we go into Reagan. So all the vets are already all through. It's just really hard to explain what it means to all of you folks.
Okay, one question that bothered me. When we land at Reagan, used to be Washington National, are there any military police waiting? Because, I had some wild days when I was in
I was wondering if we should...
in the Army Air Corps. Everybody's wild in the Army Air Corps. And I think the statute of limitations have run, haven't they, Ray? Ray's our ace photographer there, and I have to ask him a lot of questions. So, okay, if there are any military police there, am I protected?
You can walk right next to me.
Okay, very good.
I'll make sure you keep on going.
Okay. Just tell him he's okay. Statute of limitations have run. Anything this guy did in World War II. Now, what is the funniest thing that ever happened to you?
Well, there's a couple things. One was a phone call. Mr. George Tomko, when he called me, he was terminally ill, but he addressed it differently on the phone. And when he called me, he says, well, I want to donate. And I said, Mr. Tomko, you're not allowed to donate. World War II veterans are not allowed to donate. But I want to donate. And I said, Mr. Tomko, you cannot donate. And the phone got quiet, and all of a sudden I hear, I can't hear you. We must have a bad connection. And I said, George, I said, you cannot donate. I can't hear you. We must have a bad connection.
Quick thinker.
So, yeah, I knew he was an ornery guy to begin with. And the other interesting thing that happened was last year, our flight, September 20th, we were delayed an hour coming home. And I felt the need to entertain the troops on board. And Annette, my cohort, came up and gave me the hook. She's like, get off, you're done talking. I was afraid people would fall asleep or get upset or start thinking about why we're so late, why we're so delayed. So I felt the need to.
And what did you do for entertainment then?
Oh, I had people sing.
You led the singing too?
That was the sad part.
Solo?
That'll get the hook anywhere. We did trivia, did lots of trivia. We had the vets tell stories. We sang the branches, different military music. So we were doing all kinds of things, but she came up and gave me the hook.
Oh my. You're going to have her on another flight?
Oh yes, okay. She'll be there.
Very good. And you're going to entertain on this one?
I hope not.
How about a little soft shoe and little patter and jokes and all that sort of thing?
Are you warming up?
Yeah.
Okay, you're on.
Oh, I didn't mean me. I mean you.
I just volunteered you.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're great on this volunteer thing, aren't you? Okay, what is the best thing? Of course, it's probably best, everything about it's best to you.
The best thing is you folks get to go see your memorial and see how you're going to be remembered. I think that's, I can leave every flight. I think our team, we get together and we feel like we've given back to the greatest generation, and that's important to us. We have a lot of respect for you.
That's a great thought. That's a great thought. You know, I wear a cap, baseball cap, every so often. It says Army Air Corps. Also, I was in the Air Force also, so I was in both 13 years total. And the one with the Army Air Corps, If I go into McDonald's, I get free coffee. I said, boy, I got something going here. I go into a bar, I get a free beer. So that's just a little bit of trivia I may pass on to some of these guys. Wear your cap. You get some free drinks and free coffee. People come up and shake your hand. And the first guy that did that, he says, well, thank you. I says, for what? What did I do? Did I take your parking spot or what? He says, thank you for being in World War II. He says, well, a lot of us were there because we had to be there. You know, of course, I enlisted. But we're interviewing you, not me. Okay? Now, how many of these do you do a year?
So far, we've been 2 a year. We'd like to do more, but financially, it runs us between $50,000, $60,000, probably on the average 50. So we have to raise that money.
And you, of course, the airline wants it in advance, don't they? To
Correct.
Make sure.
Correct.
And when's the next one?
Right now, we are hoping for September. We have to wait for the charter dates, but we've been given a grant by a company in Canton, Ohio, so, or a foundation, I should say, in Canton, Ohio, so that should secure our next flight.
There's a couple of guys at the fitness club, they stagger around the track, and I told them about this honor flight, and if you have any applications, I'll take them and give them to them, and we may roust up a couple more guys. I think they'll make it till September. We're going to try. Now, we're getting back to your situation. Where do you teach?
I teach at Canton Local in Canton, Ohio. So I teach at Faircrest Memorial Middle School. And what's so unique about our school is it was named after 7 soldiers who were killed in Vietnam. And that's how I got involved. They actually had plaques on the wall, and I'm a visual type of person, so I thought it would always be neat to have pictures of the students up there because they were young ones. They were 18, 19, 26, and so through our little project, we've ended up adding a veterans courtyard out front where we raised $75,000. It's dedicated to all the veterans from the 20th century.
You're a
and all
great
the different
fundraiser.
wars. And I've had lots of help.
The politicians haven't gotten hold of you, have they? With your fundraising skills, my gosh. What are the names of these fellows? You said the school is named after them?
After 9 soldiers, and you're going to test me on this, aren't you? One, I could tell you there was one woman, Sharon Lane, she was a nurse, and Altman Hospital actually has a bronze statue.
And she was killed in Vietnam?
She was killed in Vietnam. She's the only female that was killed by enemy fire. Other ones had died, but she was killed by enemy fire. And her mom has come to our programs year after year. And Lieutenant Shepner was in the Navy, and he was listed as a POW. He still is, or I'm sorry, MIA. And then there was a Carl Rogers, and you're going to test me on this. There was
well,
9
okay.
total.
Whatever you can remember. Now, the Navy fellow, was he a pilot, shot down?
Yes, helicopter pilot.
Helicopters. Those things are something, what they use plenty of them in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. But you know that Moshe Dayan, who was the Prime Minister of Israel, mm-hmm. was also he fought with the British in World War II, and he was a general. And he won the 6-Day War. He won every war that Israel was in. And he went to Vietnam, and he heard that we lost something like 5,500 helicopters. And his condemnation was that the helicopters being used in a wrong way. And what he knew because he won every war that he commanded. Moshe Dayan. And it's always sad to hear about these fellows that they've never come home. When I was overseas, the biggest fear was that we would not come home one way or another. And all these people that say, well, we want to leave them where they fell. And that, I think, is wrong. The guy should come home because everybody wants to come home. Mm-hmm. Okay, what is your next, what are you doing to get your people for the next flight?
We have a list of 560 people, so what we do is we call in the order that they sent in their applications. So we are actually, unfortunately, working from October of 2007 for this next flight. I was just hoping to get through all of our applicants from 2007 this year.
That's a lot of phone calls to make.
That's a lot of phone calls.
Where is your office?
We have an office on East Turkey Foot Lake Road, 567 East Turkey Foot Lake Road, and we're in an office building that the office was actually donated to us by an Al Workman, former classmate. I've got a great class.
You've got all the,
many years
angles
ago.
going here. That's great. Well, this is a great thing you're doing. It gives you a lot of satisfaction, and it keeps you busy. It keeps you out of the bingo halls, right? You're not playing bingo or shuffleboard.
That's correct.
So how many hours a week do you put in on this?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
So you work on it every day, just about?
I teach during the day, and then I work on this in the evenings, and on the weekends.
Well, that's a great work you're doing. Okay, can you give us I hate to say commercial because this isn't a commercial, but go ahead and tell us about your donations, ask for donations, whatever you want to talk about now. Give us a pitch I want to see how you do it.
Wait,
Asking for a fundraising pitch, that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, if you think about the greatest generation the way I do and have the great respect for them, and you want them to be able to see their World War II memorial, please donate to Honor Flight CAK at 567 East Turkey Foot Lake Road, Akron, Ohio 44319. All your donations go into each flight. All of us working are volunteers, so nobody is getting paid. We don't even have an office expense as far as rent or anything like that. So please, please donate, because the more funding that comes in, the quicker we can get our veterans out.
And do you add to that list? You say you have 560, you're adding to the list?
Continually.
You go through like the VFW and the American Legion, do they help you any?
Financially?
Yeah.
Or financially?
They're both,
Yes, a lot of veterans organizations are donating to us. Some just give us a check every month, which is great. Other ones give us a larger check. Individuals can donate. Since it's all private donations, we take them from anywhere. We also have a website at honorflightcak.org. People can now get on there and donate to PayPal. You can also print off an application for veteran or guardian or a volunteer and then send them in to us.
So if anybody out there has relatives that have really not heard about this, okay, what would you say for them to contact you? And
they can contact me, or they can contact the website, which would probably be a little easier, and send in an application unless there's a certain circumstance. If they are terminally ill, we will bump them up to the top of the list, but we will need some sort of form from a doctor that states that.
okay, you have a guardian, goes with every veteran has to have a guardian?
If they are in a wheelchair, we have about one guardian, and this flight we have also a guardian that walks with them. The ratio is about one guardian to 3 veterans. So on our flight of 182, we are taking 117 veterans and 65 guardians.
Now, you also have a video that we looked at. It's a 6-minute video. And can you tell us a little bit about that now?
Well, for Christmas, I thought it would be nice if every veteran on our flight had a little memory for them to show and share with their family. So I came up with a video, and it depicts from start to finish in some of the thank you letters that we had received from the veterans and some of the comments that they made in all the places that they got to see that day. So I put the video together and made 300 copies, and we sent them out to all the vets with the Christmas card over the holidays. So.
Okay, we'll be back in just a moment after this message. Our sponsor, ESCO, Stadvik Inc., and M&M Custom Tabs. We do fast print, quick print, do digital archiving, and we've added a new company called Factory Auto Manuals. We have thousands and thousands of motorcycle, car, truck manuals, in addition to all the aircraft manuals we have going back to 1915. So give us a call if you want to sell any of your manuals. Give us a call. We'll give you a price on it, and we'll come take a look at them. Whether they have aircraft manuals or go into the attic, and we're trying to save these and give them to, we supply them to foreign governments, only peaceful foreign governments, museums that are trying to maintain the same way MAPS does down at Akron-Canton Airport. You've been down there, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
The Military Air Preservation Society. And we supply them to these people that are trying to restore military aircraft and restore them and bring them to people and show, well, like the Collins Foundation comes around with military aircraft, the Experimental Aircraft Association, the Commemorative Air Force. They rebuild these aircraft and fly them around the country. And you can get a ride in a B-17 for only $475. Well, we certainly thank you for being with us, and let's give a telephone number and an address at Your Honor Society, the CAK Honors, not Honor Society, but Honor Flight.
Okay, once again, it's Honor Flight, CAK, at 567 East Turkey Foot Lake Road, Akron, Ohio, 44319. Phone number is 330-413-3224. And our website is honorflightcak.org.
And we're going to show you some of that on the video. And thank you for being with us, Valerie. It was a pleasure talking to you. I learned a lot, and I know what to expect now. Except no surprises, right?
You have to act surprised.
Okay, you're not going to have the military police waiting for me down there. Okay.
That's a thought.
Oh, my goodness. And once again, with this gal, we made a deal that if Hollywood calls her after the show, Ray and I are going to get 10%. And thank you for being with us. And here at Prime at Anthony's on Manchester Road. Remember, for your next event, call Prime at Anthony's, and they will take care of everything for you. We have a new member of the Stadvik family of companies. Of course, we have ESCO, we have Stadvik Inc., we have M&M Tabs, who do custom tabs for the printing industry. And now our new arrival is the Factory Auto Manual Company. We bought this up in Flint, Michigan, and transported something like 50,000 manuals down here to Akron, 2 semi-loads. And we have, for example, the Factory Auto Manuals for Ford. This is a 52 Ford manual. We can supply manuals back into the 40s for you. Automobile manuals, motorcycle manuals, also truck manuals. So give us a call at 330-644-7724 for Factory Auto Manuals. Now we buy, sell, and trade. So if you have any manuals you want to get rid of, we'll bring them in. We'd be happy to buy them or trade you. Remember, ESCO and Factory Auto Manuals, 330-644-7724.
This has been the Ernie Stadbeck Show with your host, Ernie Stadbeck. To get in touch with Ernie, write to Ernie Stadbeck, 378 South Van Buren Avenue, Barberton, Ohio, 44203-4014. By phone at 330-644-7724 or online at erniestad@AOL.com.